Hi guys, hope you're well. I have a drink in my hand, and if you know by content, that means that today's video is going to be a really chilled one. I've also got pajama bottoms on, so if you see those just flash up in the shot, mind your business. So if you're here to get like tips on, you know, entrepreneurship, content creation, social media, then I hate to break it to you, but this probably isn't going to be the video for you, because this is going to be a general chit chat Q&A life update. Hence the mug with the piping hot coffee in it. I shared a story recently where I asked you to submit any questions that you had for me in regards to like a life update. And I'm gonna be going through those questions today and just telling you a bit about how things are and what's gone on with me. I realize I've not done one of these like style videos in a while. And honestly, it's a conscious thing. I just think like, who cares? Like, does anyone really care? Or do you just want me to cut the crap and get to like the value and stuff? So I think that's like a mindset thing that I probably need to work through. Please let me know in the comments if you actually want to see me do these types of videos more often, and also how often, because I actually really enjoy filming these. It feels like I'm just catching up with a mate. So if you want them more often, then that would be great for me. I feel like I just had something on my tooth, so I really hope that wasn't visible in the intro to this video. All right, so I've got my phone up. I've taken a bunch of screenshots of all of your questions, by the way. Thank you so much for submitting so many. They were like, I was quite blown away by how many there were. And they were really like good questions as well. So I'm excited to get into it. Also, before I get into it, there was a question about like my income streams and stuff. I'm gonna talk to you about how my business performed this year in terms of my income streams at the end of the video. I'm gonna save that to the real ones who stick around. So let's talk about the first question, which is, what have you been doing non-business related? Now, this question stumped me because I was like, what have I been doing? Non-business related. I work a lot, I'm not gonna lie to you, but for a bit of context, because I guess you guys don't know me outside of like the work life, I am quite a social person, so I do spend a lot of time with my friends and family, go out for dinners and drinks quite often. I also I travel quite a lot. At least I try to travel quite a lot. I think this year I've broken my record for the most countries I've ever traveled to in a year. Previously, I would maybe go to like 1 or 2 countries in a year, because obviously I had a job and like there was a limited amount of holiday that you could actually take. But this year, because some of my travels have been work related, I've actually managed to travel to 5 or 6 countries. So let me break them down. In May, I went to Bermuda for one of my really good friends' weddings. And then in June, I went to Portugal, I think June was. And then July, did I go to Barcelona in July? And then like November, I went to Amsterdam for my 30th. And then I just got back from Italy last week. Oh, and then I also went to Italy again in April. I'm actually getting married in Italy next year, so more on that in a minute, because a few people asked me questions about that. But that's why I've been to Italy twice this year to do wedding planning. Also just because I love Italy. So yeah, that's like what, 5 or 6 countries, which is amazing. I never thought I'd be able to travel that much in the space of a year. If you think that's a lot, my fiance, who has a full-time job, has traveled to like 10 this year. Like, it's because his job requires him to travel as well. He literally travels all the time. I'm very jealous of him. But anyway, that's what I've been up to mostly, just a lot of traveling. I've also not been massively well, which I don't always like to talk about on social media, just because it's like a bit personal. I'm not like, it's nothing serious, but like I've just been ill on and off, so that's been a bit of a bummer. And I've also had people in my life who've been poorly as well, so it's been like a big year health wise for a lot of us, but I think in a positive way, because, you know, for example, I had people close to me who've had operations and stuff like that, but everyone's very much recovering, myself included. So I feel very grateful for that, and nothing's been like too serious, but it has just meant that like when I'm not working, that's usually what I'm doing, is just resting or just spending time with a loved one who maybe isn't feeling great. What has been the biggest highlight of your year? Okay, so this one was very recent, but you may have seen on my Instagram stories that I was part of this year's YouTube Black Creator Class. And as part of that, we had a graduation event a couple of weeks back. Now, during that event, I gave a speech. I'll put a video clip up, but keep in mind that the quality isn't great and I can't find anyone who has a better video, so just bear with me. Hi everyone, my name is Jade Beason. I am part of this year's YouTube Black Voices Creator Class of 2022. And I'm very honoured to be this year's valedictorian. Now, the reason why I gave that speech was because I was named the valedictorian for that year, which was such an honour. But I think the reason why that has been my highlight, because there have been so many things that has happened this year that I'm incredibly proud of. especially in the realm of like public speaking, right? Because I really put myself out of my comfort zone this year, and I've hosted events for like YouTube, Apple, Facebook, like it's been incredible. But that speech that I made in particular was the one that I'm most proud of. And the reason why is because I did it completely without any cues. I had no cue cards, I had no visual cues, no slides. I memorized the entire speech. I wrote it in like half an hour, and then I practiced it whilst I was getting ready, and then I walked on stage in front of like over 100 people and just recited it. Like, not even word for word, it doesn't need to be word for word, but like I hit all my points, and I was just so proud of the delivery of that speech. And the reason why that is one of my highlights is because I feel like it encompasses how I feel about public speaking this year in general and how far I've really come with it. Like, to give you some context around that, right? I had written the speech and it was on my phone, on my notes app, and just before I went on stage, I was like, okay, I already know that I know the speech off by heart because, you know, I wrote it. So I already know that I know what I'm trying to say here. And I had this moment where I was like, you don't need your notes. Just leave your phone on the floor backstage. You don't need it. Just go out there and like back yourself. Trust that you know what you're trying to say and that you won't go blank. Like, trust your ability to deliver this speech. And it was literally like a second before I went on stage and I was like, fuck it. And I just put the phone down and I was like, just went on. And it was just such a moment where like, I can't remember a time where I just trusted myself that much. You know, I just fully backed myself that I could put it off. And then when I did, I've just like, I don't know, it makes me a bit emotional. I was just very proud of myself. So I think that was my highlight for sure. Where do you see yourself in the next few years? This is such an easy question because I'm such a planner. I have like a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan. I've got it all, right? So in the next few years, from a personal standpoint, you know, gonna be married, which I'm very excited for. Myself and Jamie, who's my fiance, we would like to move out of our flat. We've been in our flat for like almost 7 years now, which is absolutely insane. It's like the first place we've ever like owned together, and I absolutely love it. Like, when we leave this flat, I will cry. Like, I know I will, because I absolutely love it. But I'm also aware that we just need more space, and it's coming up to the time where it would be nice to like own a bigger property. So I would love for us to own a property. Myself and Jamie also want to start like an investment business together as well. So from a personal standpoint, like, that's where I would like to be in a few years. I'd like for those two things to kind of be established. And then from a business standpoint, I would like for my business to have scaled significantly. If I'm being completely honest, I would like for my business to have reached the 7-figure mark in terms of annual revenue. Obviously that's not in terms of how much I would be earning or anything like that, but I would like for it to be around that mark. I don't even know if I want it to get more than that. I'm kind of just happy with that. So that would be cool. And I would also like to have another business on the go. I actually have a couple of ideas of what I want that to be. I've always known that I've wanted multiple businesses. I've always had multiple businesses. Like, this has always been something that I wanted to do. And I feel like I'm getting to a place with this business where things are working really well. My clients are getting amazing results and I've got into a really good flow with it. So I think the time is coming where I might be able to redirect some of my energy to starting a new business too, without having to sacrifice the quality of what I'm doing on this business. So that's where I'd like to be in 3 years. So I've got lots to do, so I should probably get on with this video so I can get back to work. I had a few questions about the wedding, like how's the planning going, when am I getting married, etc., which always makes me feel quite like, just the fact that you guys care enough to ask about it. I think it's really sweet. So I am getting married in Siena in Italy next year. Siena's in Tuscany. Myself and Jamie got engaged in Tuscany last year, and we also just absolutely love Italy. So that's the reason why we're getting married there. It's just so beautiful. We've picked this incredible venue, like incredible, which houses all of our guests, and we're gonna stay there for 3 days, which is, if you asked me like, what's your dream wedding a few years back, I would have told you that, but then I would have immediately said to you, I have no idea how I'm gonna pay for that, because weddings are expensive, and if things weren't going how they are going right now, like, I don't know how we would pay for a wedding. It genuinely, like, I've been racking my brain about this for a while. If I hadn't started this business and me and Jamie weren't doing what we're doing now, how would we be affording any wedding? I don't know. There's just no way. So I feel very lucky that I've somehow managed to get like a dream wedding scenario. So 3 days in Italy, early October next year. There's like 75 people coming, which has been incredibly difficult because I have a very, very, very big family, and I also have like, not necessarily a huge friendship circle, but like a friendship circle which is too big for the size of the family that I have. So that process has been really difficult for me because there's been a lot of people who I would have loved to invite who I couldn't. But that's okay. I feel like we've kind of gone past that awkward phase, you know, like that's just always one of the hardest parts that people talk about, isn't it? Like when they're inviting their guests and stuff, but I feel like we're past that now because we know who's coming, so that's good. And yeah, we're like in a really good place in terms of the wedding planning. I feel like we're pretty much done because we just got back from Italy last week. We kind of have everything in place. Like, yeah, we're kind of ready. I've got my wedding dress, which was so over budget. It was literally twice the budget that I was supposed to spend. But it's incredible. Oh my God, this dress is like, I actually saw it online, like on Instagram ages ago, and it has followed me around in my brain ever since. And it got to the point where I was like, we've just got to find a way to get this dress. I had to pay for it to be flown in from Australia because there wasn't even a sample that I could try on in the UK. Like, that is the dedication I've had to this dress, and it is perfect and I regret nothing, and I cannot wait to wear it. Cannot wait. So I also got a few questions about like how I stay focused, how I kind of push through when I'm feeling overwhelmed, how I stay organized, like all of that kind of stuff. I'll link to a video. I'm sure I've got a video somewhere where I dive into this topic in a little bit more detail. But in a nutshell, the main reason I feel that a lot of us feel overwhelmed is because we have like a huge task or a huge goal in front of us, and we don't have a plan what breaks down exactly what we need to do and when in order to reach that goal. And when we don't have that plan, of course it's going to feel really overwhelming because it's like all you can see is a sea of work ahead of you, right? Whereas when you break it down and you get really, really good at planning like your days and your weeks, and you've got a really clear idea as to how you're going to reach that goal and when, it becomes a lot less overwhelming. So I use Asana. There are other platforms out there like Notion that you can use to really start planning your week, but that's the tool that I currently use. And that is the thing what stops me from being overwhelmed. Like if I'm like, okay, I want to launch a new business, that obviously feels very overwhelming, but I will spend an entire day planning how I'm going to launch that bit by bit, week by week, month by month. And by the end of that planning session, I normally feel a lot better because I'm like, okay, whilst I know I've got a big job ahead of me, I also know that tomorrow I only need to do X, Y, Z, right? So if you're not already big on planning, like that's probably what's going to massively help when it comes to feeling overwhelmed. That's also how I stay organized. And in terms of like how I stay motivated, you've got to have this vision. You've got to have like a vision, a why, a purpose, like a guiding light, a North Star. I mean, there's so many different ways that I can say this, right? You just have to have something deeper that you're trying to achieve with your content creation or your business. Because when you have that, that's the thing what carries you through all of those like wobbles and, you know, the times where things aren't going to plan, because you are so rooted to your purpose and what you're trying to achieve that it will help you push through all of those times where you're just not feeling very motivated. So that's what really helps me. How would your life be different if you didn't become a full-time content creator? I love this question. I would still very much be in the same industry, like 100%. So I studied marketing. I then worked in like various marketing and advertising roles for like 8 years. And it's funny, my last job that I was in, which is actually the same company where my fiance works, we didn't meet each other there. We just met each other at uni and then decided to work at the same company. Don't ask me why. It was such a silly decision. I don't know why. We thought it'd be okay. Anyway, so that company, it was a London-based partnerships agency. I loved it. Like I really loved that company. And at the start of last year, so just before I handed in my notice, my role was changing quite a bit at that company, and I was getting so much exposure to the CEO, who was this incredibly powerful woman who I really, really look up to. I started to work with her really closely, and I was getting a lot of new kind of opportunities in terms of projects. I had a really clear view on my progression, and I really felt like I understood where my career would have gone if I stuck with that role, and that made it so difficult to leave that company. Like, I've had so many other jobs where I literally ran away from it after a year, and it was, you know, you offer me another job and I would have dropped the previous job like a hat. But the last one I had, where I was at it for like 3.5 years, that was the hardest job for me to leave. It was really difficult, and I don't know if I didn't become a full-time content creator, I'd probably still be there. I'm not really sure. It's so hard to say, but I would definitely still be doing advertising, partnership marketing, like that kind of stuff. But I'd be doing it on the side of the brands, which is the side that I was doing for such a long time. I also would still have side hustles. Like I've always had other businesses going along on the side. I used to have 2 boutiques. I had a bikini boutique and a bag boutique that I closed down because this business was doing so well. So I'd probably still be doing one of those. I probably would have picked to focus on one of those. I also used to have like a joint influencing channel with Jamie that I don't really share any content on anymore, but I probably would have continued to share content on that. So yeah, my life wouldn't have been majorly different in regards to like what my main job was and the industry I was in. But in terms of my day to day, it would have looked different just purely because I wouldn't be working for myself. And my financial situation would have been very different as well. I'd be lying to you if I said that my financial situation hasn't become a lot better ever since I started to work for myself, which I'm very, very grateful for. And I think I wouldn't be feeling as fulfilled, because as much as I liked what I was doing before, the fulfillment element of me feeling like I was actually doing something that was making a big difference wasn't quite there, because I was kind of helping big brands get bigger. And there's nothing wrong with that, but now it does feel a lot more fulfilling because I literally get messages from my clients or even just people who just watch my videos telling me that they've achieved these amazing things and how it's changed their life. And I cannot put into words like how fulfilled that makes me feel. Do you know what I mean? There is nothing better than receiving like a message like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be feeling anywhere near as fulfilled, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, life would be same but different. Okay, so another really good question. What has been the biggest lesson you've learned this year business-wise? So I've spoken about this a bit before, but I went through a period in the summer where I struggled quite a bit with my business, and I started to get this, you know, the fear. I don't know if you've ever had a job where like you get anxiety when you open up your laptop and you open up your emails because you just don't want to see what's in there. I've had that in previous jobs with different clients, like when I was agency side, who would just give me this fear of like, oh God, what's the problem now? You know, I started to feel that way about my business in the summer, which is wild. Like you never want to feel that way about a company that you've created. I started to just I never really got to the dreading phase, but I definitely got to the phase where I was like not looking forward to work, which is really weird because I've always looked forward to work before that and ever since that whole period, because literally work is whatever I want to do. I decide what I'm working on, right? So normally that means that you end up enjoying it. But I was going through a phase in the summer months where I was spending a lot of time on a project which was really difficult, and it really made me feel like I was losing control of my business. And I think that's what the biggest problem was. I was working on projects that I don't regret working on because I definitely think they're going to help me in the future, but there were projects where the dynamic was very similar to me working for someone else. And that is what led to me feeling like I was losing control. And that was probably the biggest lesson that I've learned this year, is that I should not be engaging in anything that makes me feel like I do not have control over my business trajectory. Like, this is my business. I've created it from the ground up. No one is ever going to care about the success of this business as much as I do. So I need to maintain the control of it. Like, this is, at least for now, who knows what happens in the future. But for now, I need to make sure I'm in control of how my time is being spent and how my team's time is being spent. And I need to know that if things aren't happening the way that they should be happening, I have the control to change that. And I kind of lost that for a little while, and it just really led to me feeling really deflated and not great about business. It didn't last very long. It was like maybe 6 weeks. But it was a bummer during those 6 weeks, right? So that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned this year, is like, this is my company. So I need to make sure that I remind myself that I'm in control of it, and I need to maintain that control, at least for the time being. What was your dream job as a kid? So I'm laughing to myself because this is such a classic answer. When I was really young, I'm pretty sure I wanted to be a backup dancer, and I'm talking like really, really young, right? And the reason why I'm pretty sure I wanted to be a backup dancer is because that's just what all dancers used to want to be. And I shouldn't call myself a dancer, like I'm not a dancer, but I did train as a hobby in like tap, ballet, modern, like hip hop, like all of that commercial, from the age of 2 until I was like 21. So I definitely did it for a really long time. So I used to want to be a backup dancer, but then, fun fact, my sister became a very successful professional dancer, and I would go to see her in all her shows and like all that kind of stuff. She like toured around the world, like she was amazing. And it put me off because I'd go to see her and I'd be like, well, I can't do that. So I'm just gonna keep it as a hobby. Anyway, it's probably just like a confidence thing. And then after I got through my I want to be a backup dancer phase, and this is really sad, I wanted to be a marketer. I wanted to work in marketing. I've always wanted to do what I'm doing. How sad. Like, little girl, aged like 15, 14, and I'm like, yeah, I want to be a marketing professional. I wanted to be an entrepreneur as well, but like the two, I wanted to merge the two. So actually, younger me would be very proud of myself because I've managed to merge those two things. So at least there's that. But yeah, I wanted to be in marketing. Most people are like, an astronaut, and I'm like, a corporate marketing girly. Anyway. Okay, next question. What has made the biggest impact on your life this year? Okay, great question. I would say that being part of YouTube Black Voices Creator Class has made the biggest impact, and here is why. In case you're not aware of what this is, it is an initiative that YouTube created in 2020 to try and support their kind of Black talent on their platform who are potentially being like underrepresented, that kind of stuff. So I applied for this program in 2021 when my channel was like under 10k subscribers, I think, and I had only been on the platform for like months at the time. So I was very nervous. I didn't think I'd get it. I did get it, and then I spent the whole of this year kind of taking part in the different classes, meeting other creators and stuff like that. Now, the reason why this has had the biggest impact on my life this year is because of the opportunities that this program has given me. So when you join this program, you get a partner manager. Shout out Maz if you're watching. You get a partner manager, and my partner manager, Maz, was incredible. Like from day one, I said to her, hey, Maz, I really want to get better at public speaking. It's one of my goals for this year. Like, let me know if you've got any opportunities for me. And straight away, like this was in April time, she was like, hey, do you want to host an event for YouTube? And I remember getting that email and turning to Jamie and being like, oh my God, it's like, I don't know if I actually want to do this now, because suddenly it felt really real. You know, when you want something, you just think, ah, and then it happens and you're like, So I got the email and I was like, well, you know, who's going to turn down an opportunity for their first public speaking gig to be hosting an event and a panel for YouTube? Like, who's going to turn that down? So obviously I jumped at the chance, and that was when I hosted Blossom Bloom back in April. And that set me on such a path when it came to public speaking, just general credibility in my niche. Because when you've worked with a brand like YouTube or Google, who owns YouTube, other opportunities come up, because now other brands, really big brands, will see you as someone they can trust with something like public speaking, because brands really have to trust you to do something like public speaking, because you could actually say whatever you want in a live environment, right? So from a brand's perspective, it could be quite nerve-wracking. But when you have a brand like YouTube on your resume or your CV, other brands, other big brands will take you so much more seriously. And I really felt that started to happen throughout the rest of the year. And a result of that, I've had a chance to work with other big brands. And now I have this roster of brands that I've done events for that I just feel like have massively boosted my confidence, massively. And I'm hoping will open up even more opportunities for me next year too. And to be fair, it already has. I already have like speaking gigs next year, which I never would have gotten if I hadn't have been given that opportunity by my partner manager, and if I hadn't have joined the YouTube Black Creator Class. So I mean, that program, like, yeah, changed my life. And also I got to meet such amazing creators as well. We've got such a good tight-knit community of just fellow creators helping each other. So I think that had the biggest impact on my life this year, and I'm willing to bet that it's going to continue to have one of the biggest impacts on my life moving forward. All right, so only 2 more questions I'm going to answer. So the next one is, I'd love to know, how are you? And also, what are your business goals for 2023? I thought this was a really cute question. I'm okay. I shouldn't say I'm okay, because it makes it sound like I'm not good. I'm actually really good. This year has been probably one of the most successful career-wise, no, definitely the most successful year I've ever had from a career standpoint, but it's also been really challenging for some of the reasons that I mentioned before, just to do with health. Health is such a hard thing, because if you don't have health, like, you don't really have much else. So, and again, I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about people close to me as well. So that has been challenging, but I'm very fortunate in that it's all really worked out and everyone's definitely on the mend. So from that perspective, the year has been hard. But on the other hand, what an incredible year. Like, oh my God. Like, I've massively built this business. I've worked for myself all year. I've traveled the world. Like, I've still managed to spend so much time with my friends and family. And I don't think I've ever felt more grateful for life. And that's saying a lot, because I think I've always been someone who's felt very grateful for life. So there's that. In terms of my business goals for 2023, this will nicely lead me on to my final question, which is all about my income streams, because one of the main ones is that I want to double the revenue that I made this year. So stick with me if you want to hear what that revenue was. And I also want to start and launch a new business. So I'm not gonna tell you what the business idea is yet, because I haven't ironed out all the kinks, but that's what I want to do in the next year. It's funny, I don't have many like following goals and growth goals like I did for this year, because I'm just so happy with the community and the audience that I have at the minute. Obviously it would be nice to hit 100,000 because I'm so close to it now, and I feel like that will happen next year. But honestly, 100,000 is more than I ever thought I would get. So as long as I'm still helping my community in some way, like I don't mind if it doesn't massively grow, which is really nice to not have that as an objective anymore. So yeah. Okay, now for the question that I feel like a lot of people may have been waiting for, because if you're anything like me, then you're really nosy about this type of stuff. My income in terms of my business income for the year. Now, let's just remember the usual caveats. I do not get to keep all this money. My taxes are absolutely insane. They're insane. And also I have other expenses. So this is not what I paid myself, as much as I wish it was. So let's talk about some of my income streams this year. These are very rough numbers. Also, I'm filming this on the 8th of December. So obviously it's not the end of the year yet. Some of these numbers are just projections. So I made around £80,000 from sponsorships, which I'm very proud of, especially when you consider the fact that my audience size that it is right now, it has not been this size for majority of the year. In fact, it's grown quite a lot in recent months. At the start of the year, I had around 40,000 subscribers, 10,000 Instagram followers, and I didn't have anything on TikTok. So it's doubled or even tripled since then. So to make £80,000 in sponsorships for the year I'm very proud of that. £45,000 in YouTube AdSense revenue. So that's the money that YouTube have paid me for the ads in my video. £20,000 on speaking gigs, which massively surprised me. I had no idea it was that much. That's a lot of money. I'm very proud of that as well. £4,000 from affiliate referrals. £1,580,000 are from like everything else. So this includes my courses, my coaching programs, my one-to-one coaching. I used to offer, like, I used to have an ebook, I used to do audits, I did a workshop at one point early in the year. I've done a few different things. They're a lot more streamlined now. You'll be happy to know. And by the way, if you want to work with me, just DM me on Instagram with the word ready and we could talk about it. But anyway, those income streams I've just grouped together. So that is a grand total of just shy of £300,000, which I'm incredibly proud of. Last year, I think my business made around £70,000, but obviously I was working full time for majority of the year. So this felt like my first full like annual year of working for myself and really scaling this business. So like, what an incredible achievement for it to hit those kind of numbers. So I do want to massively increase that next year. I'm in the growth stage of my business. So I'm doing a lot of like reinvesting into my company to really get it to the stage where I want it to be at. So next year I do have a goal of 700,000. Also, for your reference, my goal for this year was 340,000, which I'm not gonna lie, for majority of this year, I thought I wouldn't even get close to. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that I managed to get so close to that goal. So next year it is 700,000, which is more than double what I made this year. And this is just for this business. I'm not even counting other businesses that I'm gonna launch, which is hilarious. But let's just see what happens, right? You've got to reach for the stars and land on the moon. Is that the phase? I'm gonna run with it. So I'm gonna stop talking now because I've babbled for quite a while and I actually need to leave. It's like -1 degree outside, so I'm really not looking forward to it. But anyway, thank you so much for listening and watching this video. If you watched this whole thing and you got to this point, can you let me know in the comments, because you are like my OGs. You guys are the reason why I'm able to achieve any of this stuff, and I'm very, very grateful for it. Just so you know, I am gonna take a short break, 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, from all of social media, including YouTube, Instagram, my podcast, my newsletter, TikTok, everything, for Christmas, just to spend time with my friends and family and to really disconnect and to come back into 2023 with like a lot of fresh perspective and really excited for the year ahead, because as you can tell by my goals, I've got a lot to do next year, so it's important that I take some rest now. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I'm not even gonna direct you to another video. I'm just gonna love you and leave you here. Thanks, guys. I will see you in the new year.